Hi everybody, Nate here from WASD20. Thanks so much for joining me and my blank sheet of paper here for a little tree drawing. Today we're going to be drawing 7 styles of forests for your map. So grab your pen or pencil and let's get going. So here we go. We're going to start with the good old traditional WASD20 fantasy style, number 1. So what I generally have done in the past is, and you remember from my original fantasy map drawing series, I made these kind of cloudy looking forests, and there were clusters of trees together in one. And I feel like I've gotten a little bit better at this, definitely, since the early days in that first map drawing series. I feel like I've improved quite a bit. But it's still not totally my favorite style. I think it can look good. So we just kind of do this erratic, you don't want to make it too uniform. If you're getting into something like this, which is a little more similar to what I often did, I would avoid that. Try to make it a little more jagged and erratic, and I think you'll be happier with the results. And then I just go in and I do these little tree trunks, and I make them super short. I think almost the shorter the better. If you're getting into long lines like this, and you're spacing them pretty far apart like I am, it starts to look a little ridiculous. So definitely keep them short and keep them very close together. I'm using a size 4 Pigma Micron pen today, and normally I'd probably be using something a little bit thinner, but I want to make sure this shows up really well on camera for you all. Alright, so something like that, and then we can go in and, you could just leave it like that, but I usually go in and just add some little trees, little tree tops doing their thing in here. Give it some texture. And just kind of go like that. I just think that helps improve the look overall. Alright, so that is number 1, style number 1. Style number 2, I'm going to be doing something very similar, but you can make it a little more wispy and ethereal. So I'm going to actually be doing more of a pine tree style for this one. A coniferous tree, and so you can just go along the top, and instead of doing your kind of cloudy look where you're just I'm doing a little bit more pointy and jagged here. It's almost like a flame, and it kind of has that effect a little more. And then when I go down to the bottom, I make it a little more erratic as well, and kind of separate it. You can make them super tight. Same with this style. You could make it very kind of loose and just kind of sketchy looking, and that can look really good. Or you can make it very tight and together and really neat. But in this style, I would generally say, you can just get a little more erratic with your tree trunks as well. Everything's just a little more light, and I think that can look okay. And then in here, you could leave it like that once again, but I usually now go in also put some pointy topped trees inside, and it just gives it that look of a more coniferous forest. You can make these as dense as you want to. Here I'm making mine pretty dense, I would say. I generally don't make them more than that. Alright, so that's another pretty cool style that I like. I think I might like it a little more than this one, but I don't know. In general, I don't usually do either of them nowadays. It depends a lot on a client's budget. So I do, as many of you know, I do map commissions. You can learn more all about that at sellswordmaps.com, or email me at sellswordmaps@gmail.com if you're interested. But if a client is on a budget, they will try to keep things reasonable. This is a lot quicker than the styles that I will show you next. Style number 3 is one that I have just recently discovered, and I'm really liking it. I did this on the Iskloft map, which I will put a picture of the work-in-progress map up on the screen here so you can see it. Iskloft, I think it is still in its Kickstarter, just the final days of its Kickstarter, so definitely go check it out. I'll put a link in the video description. Here is the style that I've been doing for the Iskloft map. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing a cluster, but I'm individualizing each kind of tree unit at the very least. And one way to do this is to make them perfectly rounded. I'll show you that. But the way that I've been doing is actually you start at the bottom and you kind of make these little treetops, and you got to get the bottom too on just the front row. And it can be a little awkward, and I'm not totally super confident in it, but it's getting there. And then you just come in and you do some more on the top here, and you want to try to probably, you know, if just to give you an example here, if these were our two, our next one we wouldn't want to do right above, we want to do in between, like that. Okay, so in general, that's what you're going to be doing here. Just wanted to show a little more clearly than maybe what you can see on my tiny little forest here. And I think it looks good if you make some that are kind of, they're not all one consistent, neat edge, but there's a little bit of, you know, odd ones sticking out here and there. I think that can look really good. And so we're going to actually like have an indent here, and then we'll go back out here like that. And you can fill in what you don't like, but I'm disobeying my rule here. I'm going up top, and I need to finish the ones on the bottom here. And that's really important in this kind of style. And so I'm just kind of making them a little bit jagged, just shaking my pen a little bit as I go. And you don't have to be too precise about it, and you can really vary them quite a bit. As you can tell, this is a much more time-consuming style than what I showed you on the other ones, but I think it can look really neat. It's just got a very, it gives your map a very detailed look. Like, man, someone put in a lot of time here. And it's true, they did. And then I usually do the tree trunks, the hatching here. But you could do a style that I'll show you in the next one. You could do more of like an individual tree trunk like that if you wanted to, and that can look really good also. But yeah. This is really similar. When I started this, it actually reminded me a bit of the Devin Rue style. Devin Rue is a cartographer. I'm going to actually do it down here. More room. She's a pretty well-known cartographer online these days. Makes absolutely beautiful maps. And her style, which I'll try to kind of show you here in number 4, is this. She has quite a few different styles, I should say, but this is the one that first caught my eye, and I think most of her maps definitely have this style to them. So it's just a little more rounded, and she'll often do, like, I don't know, she had one that had like purple trees, and it was just really cool looking, really vibrant colors on a lot of her maps. And so something like that is what we'd be looking at, and you can once in a while just do kind of a lone tree by itself, and maybe, you know, you got one here, and then okay, so something like that. I am not as good at it as she is, but in this one I will actually take a much thinner pen, and what she does is she does a little bit of, in general, like some horizontal hatching on the right side of the tree, just to give it a little bit of depth, and it really does have that effect of giving it more depth. I think it looks pretty nice. And then she does individual tree trunks in general. So anyway, go search for Devin Rue, and just look up her maps. They're very inspiring, really, really beautiful work. And then tree trunks like that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the things she does are clearly very time consuming. I'm sure she's quicker at them than I am after lots of practice. But yeah, so that is another pretty cool style that I really like for drawing your forests. All right, number 5. Let's talk about the individual tree method. So the first one I'm going to do is just really, really simple individual trees. You can do all kinds of shapes. You can do this shape. You can do this shape, kind of an oval, or this shape, or for that matter, this shape, right? There's a lot of different options here. I would not recommend making like a square, but hey, you could do what you want. It's a fantasy world. Square trees. All right, so I'll just do this one right here, and the way that you would generally do this is just super simple. Go in, and if you're wanting to do individual trees, this is probably the best way to start. You do not have to do trunks on these trees. If you do trunks, I recommend keeping them pretty short So the emphasis is definitely on the pointy part of the tree. You could choose to get a little more detailed and do a chunk like that instead of just a straight line. It's something that's going to take a little more time when you're doing a lot of these, but it can enhance it depending on what you want. All right, and that's really nice. The advantage of the individual tree method in my mind is that it allows you to just, scatter a few trees here or there. Whereas I don't think that looks nearly as good when you're doing numbers 1 or 2 here. So anyway, I think this can look really good. And I just recommend experimenting, seeing what works for you, seeing what you're able to pull off well. I think that's a big thing. It's like, you know what? I tried that. I like the way it looks on his map, but I can't do it that well. But I can do this other way well. And, don't get discouraged. Just keep working. All right, so that is the very simple way. Now, more detail. What we would be looking at here in general, if we were going to stick with the coniferous tree, and again, you can do this with any shape, but sticking with the coniferous tree, I would say you're going to be looking at something like this, where you're just doing... I'm doing mine a lot bigger because they're hard to do small. Something like that. And just, getting in there and getting a little jagged with it. And just go with the feel. You're doing your little Christmas trees or whatever, right? And this one I definitely recommend doing this style of trunk a little bit more. You can experiment with what works best in terms of shading. Oh, I kind of messed up, but hey, it's correctable. Look. I did my straight swooping edge there. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal. And I did it again. Totally fixable. Kind of like to make one edge kind of sag a little bit lower than the other in general, but you don't always have to do that. Switch them up, and I can't map and talk at the same time, guys. I'm messing up. And make them a little funky looking and lopsided here or there, because that's the way trees are. Alright, so that style can be really nice. Within that, you want to maybe think about, do you want to fill them in? So I've done this style and this style where I actually completely fill it in. So, my trees are going to be dark. So you want to try to look at your map and maybe see what's going to look best. Is that going to draw too much attention? If you have really dark mountain shading, then the dark trees might look quite nice. And there might be a kind of visual balance that brings when you're darkening them in. It's definitely easier with these ones, I have found, if I can darken them in. Because what I do is I take this brush pen. I'll put a link to all my pens in the video description, guys, because today I'm going to be using this Pigma Micron set that came with my normal Micron pens, but also these two. The graphic, which I really like for coastlines, and the brush pen, which is just nice for a lot of different purposes. So with this, you can do almost like I think of Bob Ross with his trees, where you just do a line, and then you go in there and you just, oh yeah. That one, trunk got a little funky. Be patient with me, I'm still learning. But you get the idea, right? You can just really get in here, and it can be really quick too. Like just, and you can, it's very forgiving. And if you want your trunks a little splayed out at the bottom, you can do that. I generally like that look. And anyway, the brush pen, it's so versatile. You can do so much with it so quickly, and I really like that. So definitely recommend just getting this and playing around with it. All the links that I put in the video description too, guys, they're affiliate links, so anything you buy through those really does help support the channel. I get a little cut from those things, so appreciate that. Within this, you can, sometimes I'll do, just darkened trunks. Sometimes I will do darkened trees with light trunks. I've done that before too. If I'm, just gonna go like this, and then it's gonna be hard for me with this pen, so I'll try my Micron here, and then you can just go like that. You got to get a feel for what's going to look best with your map and what's going to bring some kind of visual balance. All right, now we're really going to go nuts with the brush pen. I am not very experienced in this. This is one that Ben from Questing Beast showed me. I actually did a mapping with him several months back, and this method was pretty new to him at the time, and he has another video on it too. So anyway, go check out Questing Beast. I couldn't find the exact video, but I'll put a link to the mapping where he uses this. We're going to be using an individual tree method that can give you a really, really detailed look, or at least you're going to be doing a lot of trees very quickly, I should say. Each tree is not going to be very detailed because we're just going to press down once with this brush pen. So here we go. And the thing that's nice about this brush pen, it does give it a little bit still of a pointy top. And if you push harder, you can see that one I pushed pretty hard. And you can get nice big ones, or you can just do tiny, tiny little dots, depending on how hard you push with this here brush pen. But this is a way that you can get a lot of trees very quickly, and that individual tree method, you know, if you're really just looking at a map and you've got some mountains here, and you've got, you know, this brush pen is not great for drawing mountains, but you get the idea, and you've got a lot going on, this can really just look nice in contrast. And while if you're looking at it individually, you might say, is that trees? I don't know, it just looks like little dots. When you're looking at it in the context of the rest of the map, you can definitely tell, like, oh, that's a forest. And I think it looks really good for that. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is shading. So there's a lot of different ways you can shade, and this can really enhance your trees. So I definitely recommend you try some of this. Add just a little bit. Just take any old pen. It doesn't matter. You can use a ballpoint pen. You can use a pencil, whatever. And add a little bit of this. Just some horizontal hatching. You can try it on one side of the tree. Sometimes I try it on both sides, which at that point it's not really shading. It's just like, it's giving it a grounded look. And it can really make it pop. So try this with your trees, and I think you'll be really pleased with how it looks. Devin Rue usually does do this on hers as well. And yeah, I just think that looks really nice. So what do you do on these ones? Well, here's what I do. If you're using just a regular old pen or pencil, I mean, if I'm using a pencil, sometimes I'll just like color a little oval there, like shh, shh, shh. And I've done that in Photoshop too, just make a little shadow there, maybe an overlay layer, make a shadow. But what I'm going to do is just super simple. 2 lines. Usually I do the first one a little bit. Longer, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you can do 3 lines, you can do 1 line, just a little something. I think it really helps, and I do it on the right side just because that's the way I always shade. Always have. Don't try to change me. All right, on these ones, do the same thing. Now these trees are a little bigger, so maybe I'd want to use a thicker pen for that, but I still think the same principle applies here. Just getting a little something there. It gives it kind of a grounded look and adds some dimension because it's got a shadow. All right, if you're using something like these, and I got turned on to these by Ben also from Questing Beast, and absolutely love them. So this is a set of gray watercolor brush pens, also made by Sakura, the same company that makes these ones. And yeah, I can't remember how much it was, but I think it was probably about 10, 12 bucks on Amazon, and I absolutely love them. I haven't used them that much, to be honest with you, but they're so great for adding shadows. So yeah, you could just go in here and you could add a shadow right there, just like that. And you know, that's super slick. You can shade your mountains really well with these too, if you don't really want like a dark, solid shadow or shade. But check this out. This just makes it super easy. These trees are just so quick. Just a little shadow there. Just went into the little dot with the black that came with my main pen set, and then you can add, you know, just find the right shade of gray. You don't want to get too dark because then it draws attention away and it no longer looks like a shadow. So maybe this one is a little dark, so maybe I could try the lighter one. Oops, I was actually just drawing those slightly off screen, so sorry about that, but you can see this is a lighter shade of gray, and it's all about just experimenting, trying a bunch of things, and finding out what looks best to you. So, this has been 7 styles of forests for your map. out of many I could have covered. I just kind of looked around at some of my maps, some other maps from other folks, and pulled out a few styles that I think can work particularly well on fantasy maps. And although some of them are time consuming, I don't think that they're all that particularly hard. So recommend giving them a shot. If you try them, let me know what you think. Which one is your favorite? Which one do you find works best for you? And of course, if you have any other questions, just leave those down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. I'd greatly appreciate it. And I also want to give a huge thank you before we leave to my patrons. Patrons are people who contribute to this channel on a monthly basis. Even $1 a month is a great help, so you can learn more at patreon.com/WASD20 and check it out. Thanks again all. Everybody take care. You'll see me again very soon.